Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
Thank you for joining us for Black Entrepreneur Experience. This is where we shine the light on the most successful Black entrepreneurs in the world. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. I'm so excited to talk to our guest today. He creates on-demand talk show. Jacksonrao is CEO of TNP Studios. They provide entertaining and informative programming for film, gaming, and political news enthusiasts. Welcome, Jay.
Hi, how are you?
I'm perfect. Thanks for asking. Jay, I've shared a snippet of your bio. Why don't you fill in the gap and tell our audience more about you and your company?
Sure. So TNP Studios is a media firm out of Baltimore, Maryland. The focus is podcasting, and we also do some level of consulting as well, which is another arm of our company. We've been around since 2011. And like you said, we do podcasts that focus on film, gaming, politics, and all the stuff sort of in between as well.
So tell us, how did you decide this was the business for you? And what was that aha moment that you knew it was going to be successful?
For me, I guess the reason why I decided to do this is it started out as a hobby, which I think all great businesses kind of come out of that, sort of some interest that you have. And I've always been a big movie fan since I was a little kid. And so my best friend and I started doing a podcast, us talking about movies, which we do normally anyway. And it started out as a hobby, as a week thing, and then it grew into being a number of shows and standing out to other friends and other colleagues. And I guess the aha moment was when we started realizing we had listenership in 180 plus countries around the world, we kind of decided it wasn't so much a hobby anymore.
Now, did you grow that organically, or tell the audience how long did it take you to reach that milestone there?
It was grown organically. We did some advertising, but very little because we sort of bootstrapped the business even to this day. I guess that probably took about 3 years to get to that audience, 3 to 4 years. And it's just been, a lot of work, and we just sort of keep at it every week and, just growing the audience as normal. But it's mostly organic, just using social media as a way to push out our stuff.
How do you define success, and what does that look like for you? And how long did it take to manifest in your life? I
define success. I don't think there's, obviously I think everybody has their own definition, but for me, it's control over your own destiny sort of thing. I always work for somebody, whether it's the government or, at some private company. And it's just kind of nice to be able to run my business in the way that I see fit. So I guess I define success as an ability to do what I love to do and to be financially secure in doing it. Now, TNP Studios, I'm not able, at this exact moment, I still have my day job, but we're certainly moving towards being able to hire everybody full-time and everything like that. But it's being able to sort of manage your own time and to continue to do what you love and get paid for it that's pretty much how I define it.
What is a daily or weekly habit that you do consistently that has given you the greatest success?
That's a good question. I read. I read a lot. I have to read for all of my shows, especially my political show. I have to read a lot. So I just try to stay ahead of the curve on whatever topic I'm talking about. I spend a lot of time sort of reading and thinking about topics historically and trying to marry sort of whatever the topic at hand is with something that is either a personal experience or a universally understood experience. but mostly just reading. I try to read as much as I can.
I was looking at your the content that you're putting out, and when you talk about political, and you were talking about reading a great deal about politics, and politics can get really sticky, right? A lot of people like to stay away from politics at the dinner table. Tell me about being an African American male, jumping into actually having a dialogue around politics, and are you doing it more on the lighter side? Are you doing it more on the serious side? Is it a combination of both?
It's definitely a combination of both, and yes, you're absolutely correct. Politics can be very sticky. So one of the things that we do is our political show I co-host with a friend of mine who's white, and that show is just sort of straight politics. But, with a comedic bent to it. We talk like we talk normally. And we also have a second show that's been around. It's actually our most popular show that focuses on black films. And a lot of times conversations deal with being black in America and, the politics of it and stuff like that, where we take a really serious look at, it has a comedic bent to it, but we take a very serious look at, politics, sort of intersectionality with being black. And for us, like, I guess we kind of live from the aspect of no topic is taboo for us. And, we get pushback. Sometimes, we get people who completely disagree. Sometimes, most of the times, our audience agrees with us, but we just kind of go for it. And I feel like if you're going to talk about politics, it can't be sort of half done. You either have to do it or not. And so we go all in.
You mentioned in reference to still having your 9-to-5 gig, do you find that, and talking politics, do you find that you push the envelope, or you have to be very careful about what you say, or are you able to be totally transparent? And the reason I ask that question, I like to be very transparent in things that I do and very authentic. And I likewise have a 9-to-5 gig and looking to eventually transition full-time into podcasting. And I will push out certain content throughout the week on videos. And I find for me personally that I have to be very careful about certain things that I express because of the position that I'm in with the 9-to-5. Do you find that sometimes it stymies your creativity, or are you completely free and able to be authentic and transparent in the work that you're doing?
So I purposely do not tell people work. This is what I do. There's a few of my close friends that I work with who know that, but for the most part, no one knows. And I do that not just because of the political stuff. I mean, if they ask me, I'll tell them my thoughts on it. But just because I don't know. I'm not like an overly private person by any means. My job is speaking publicly, but I don't ever want to have to come into a situation where I feel like, oh, someone was listening, so I better not say X, Y, Z. I've just never been that type of person. If I believe something, I'll tell you. If they found out, it wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't suddenly stop talking in the way that I talk about the topics I talk about. Our show, that Black Film, which is called Black on Black Cinema, is a show that we talk completely candidly about any issues dealing with black people, whether it's racism, our personal experiences, and we talk straight up. And it's one of the reasons why I think it's the most popular show we have, because not only do black people who listen to it enjoy sort of the open and honest dialogue, but also even white people who listen don't get a chance to hear three black guys talk open and honestly without fear, like, oh, should they not? So no, I don't worry about my job so much, but it's not, if they knew, it wouldn't change anything about the way I do my shows.
Thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, what is one valuable lesson you wish you knew before starting your business?
I went in completely blind on understanding anything about sound technology, if I could be honest. I'm an IT person by trade, so I kind of just learned it on my own, and happy to say it all worked out. But that was a real upward hill battle. I had no real understanding of audio, like technology, as far as mixing and microphones and things like that. I just had to kind of figure those things out.
What's working well for you right now in your business, Jay?
We have a really good track record for quality programming. I just think that I don't purport to say that our shows are for everybody. They're not, and I'm okay with that. But the people who the shows are for, the audience that does enjoy the show, I think they are very happy with the qualities of the shows. We're consistent on our programming, which is not necessarily all that common in the podcasting world, as much as it should be. And, we do a really good job to include our fans. And we do fan meetups with people. We've had people fly from out of state to come and hang out with us, to see a movie. We try to bring people in as much as possible and try to just expand the idea.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And for our audience, those that are aspiring entrepreneurs, one of the things that I've learned in terms of business, when you can really narrow your market, when you talked about, Jay, that your podcast or the content that you guys are putting out is not necessarily for everyone. And that is a business lesson that I've learned over the years, is that when you can narrow your market, of course, we'd like to say we want everyone, but everyone is not who your audience. And for those that are doing avatars or trying to find who is your market, that is really key, is that when you can drill down and find that one person you talk to, there's going to be others, but that's how you actually define who it is you're going after. And I think it makes a better product when you can actually drill down. So just wanted to add that. Jay, who are your top 2 influencers in your life, and what lessons did they teach you?
That's the question. I suppose in the podcast industry, I do kind of look up to, from a business perspective, I really look up to Cenk Uygur, who runs the Young Turk, which is a pretty huge political podcast network, only because they started from nothing, just like we did. And I've been watching them for a number of years. And it's just kind of cool to see somebody. A lot of times in podcasting, you hear, and I'm sure you've experienced this, oh, look to this person, and then you come to find out, well, they're a celebrity. They have millions of dollars, so it's no shock that their shows are already incredibly popular from the onset. But the Young Turks started from nothing. Like, they literally started with a card table in a dining room. And that's where we started. So I appreciate how far they've come in their number of years, and so we try to sort of match that as far as growth and popularity. Probably not really as far as they are at their same time in their time. But I look at them as a strong business model for what they do, because I think they do it well. And then the other, I think, is just. It's probably this will sound incredibly cheesy, but it's probably just my mother, who was a massive influence on me, and always taught me to work twice as hard to get half as much. So I really bust my butt and make sure I'm going to put in the time and the effort to get the quality product that I would send out to our fans.
And thanks for that, Jay. And that is not cheesy as a mother, as a grandmother, as an aunt. I kudos to your mom being, one of your top influencers. And thank you for sharing that, because our parents are very instrumental in our outlook on life and how we excel or how we're motivated. So I'm sure your mom is so excited, and we want to say thanks to your mom. What is a technology tool or a technology platform that is a must-have for you in managing your business data?
I use a lot of Google products. I use a lot of Google Drive and Gmail to coordinate with the other hosts that work for me, things like that. I'm a huge fan of Google's products. They're free or cheap, depending on what you're doing with them, and they work really well. So I don't know where I would be without them, to be honest.
Okay, so I just want to shout out to the audience. You've heard it from Jay, an IT person, letting us know that Google products, which I love Google products, also Google Drive, a great way to start if you're looking for a platform and you're on a budget. So that's a tip from Jay. So that's some good information. Jay, let's kind of flip it a little bit and let's talk about risk and or failure. And the reason I'm going to say risk and or failure, because I've asked this question before, and individuals, some depending on if they're very word conscious, they don't like the word about failure. So however you want to spin it, whether you want to use the word risk or failure, what is the worst moment in business and what was your takeaway?
The biggest for me was having to let somebody go, who was one of the hosts that worked for me. The big takeaway was I had to be open and honest with this person, and it wasn't a fun situation, but I had to make a choice that was better for the network and for the company than so for them. And I still don't like having to fire people. It's not fun, but sometimes for the better. The company, you have to make hard decisions.
Absolutely. Talk to the person in our audience. They are working a 9-to-5. They want to start a business, but they're fearful. What advice would you offer them?
Start slow. Start by, keeping your day job so that you don't have to worry about trying to come up with income from your new idea that you're trying to get off the ground. Start slow and just work your way until you literally can't do both and that both are generating money, and then walk away, when you're ready. But start slow. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people want to jump in and, do 1.5 million things on day one, but that's just a surefire way to get burnt out. So I would say start slow, make sure it's something you want to do, and do it for a while to make sure it's really what you want to do.
How would you define a while? I know you said, which I like that advice, Jay, you were talking about, continue doing it until you are able to generate a substantial income or a consistent income. So what would you say, would you put a time frame in terms of how long they should do both?
I've always been told that it's less about the amount of time, because that's too arbitrary. I mean, it took us a long time to start generating any amount of money, but that's not true for every business, right? If you're selling a physical product, then it's easier to start generating more money at a quicker rate. So I would say that it's more. I've always been told that if you're starting to make, now this is what I've been told, not a fact necessarily, just my opinion, but if you are generating $30,000 or more per person that you want to employ, then you're probably in a situation where you're over the hump, where your business will probably start to take off. So that's kind of been my rough estimate as a means to like when I would be ready to leave. But if you have to hire a staff of 30 people to start out, maybe if you're making $30,000, that's probably not a good idea. But it all depends on what you want to do. Bootstrap as long as you can, right? So spend the least amount of money for the most amount of output as long as you can. And when it feels like, wow, okay, I'm actually, if you're matching what you're making at your 9-to-5 job, then I would say definitely go for it. But if you're to a point where you could live off of what you're making and things seem to be trending in the right direction, I would say that's when you could jump to whatever your side hustle is until then.
Jay, talk to a younger you. What advice would you give to a younger Jay?
Keep working. You're going to be tired. You're going to, especially if you're working, working a 9-to-5 job and doing this, you're going to be tired, and it's going to be worth it. I made the crazy mistake of working full time, doing the shows, running this company, and getting my master's at the same time, which was a little insane. But it was worth it in the end. And so I had a lot of late nights. I had a lot of weeks where I was really exhausted. And at this point, I wouldn't change anything. I would do it all over again. Hopefully I'll never have to, but I'd do it all over again.
Jay, what book would you recommend and why to our audience?
I saw this question and I had to really think about it. And the perfect one for entrepreneurs is Malcolm Gladwell had a book just a number of years ago called David and Goliath. David and Goliath, Underdogs, Misfits, and the Art of Battling Giants. It's an interesting story. It's like a lot of his books, like The Tipping Point or Outliers, where it kind of tells you these historic stories and why they are significant. And I think that, especially in my world, you are battling against a lot of Goliaths. I started this media company, but I'm also going against other media empires like NPR and these other huge juggernauts. And in order to get noticed, you have to just keep swinging for the fences, and that's what we do. And I think this book does a good job of showing you these little guys who are actually able to make it big. It's not impossible.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Mm-hmm. Jay, if you conducted this interview, and you mentioned you do podcasting, so this is going to be wonderful. What is the one question that you would have asked yourself that I did not? And I also would like you to answer the question that you ask yourself.
I guess I would say, what keeps you going? And for me, that answer is simply I love doing what I do. As tired as I can be some days, and just absolutely exhausted, when I turn on the microphone to record with my closest friends and colleagues and things like that, I completely re-energize, and that feels pretty good to me. And I love that feeling, and it makes me want to work harder and do better and produce a better and better.
Jay, that was an excellent answer, because I love to dance, and I have an acronym that I've coined, and it's titled DANCE. And when you think of individuals that dance in life, they dance because they love to dance, and they're doing what they love, and they love what they do. But the acronym stands for Determined Action Now Creates Energy. And one of the things you said, what keeps you going, Jay, is because you love what you do. And that is really what life is about, doing what you love and loving what you do. And so I am so glad that you have found your authentic voice and you're doing what you love. And so we've come to the part of our podcast in which we call Fun Facts, Lightning Round. And I'm going to ask you some questions, Jay, and I want you to give me a quick answer for these questions. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes.
The last movie you saw?
Light.
You relax doing what?
Listening to podcasts.
Your favorite singer?
Sade.
Your favorite dance song?
Oh, God, I don't even know. I don't really listen to dance music. I'm sorry.
We'll do a pass. What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Probably almonds.
Almonds?
Yeah.
Okay. And your favorite month?
March. It's my birthday.
Excellent. Mine also. We have something in common. Love that. Jay, what is the best way for our audience to connect with you?
I'm on social media. I'm a social media monster. But I suppose like the easiest way is on Twitter. Depends. Like we have different Twitter accounts for all of our shows. That's an easy way. I manage most of them. So if people want to talk to me, I'm on there.
And can you share with our audience a parting piece of guidance you want to offer?
Utilize as many free tools as you can, because the difference between the big guys and you is generally just knowledge. There's, especially in my industry, everyone's like, oh, you have to have these fancy microphones and blah, blah, blah. But the real difference is understanding what to do once you have a microphone. And so that's just knowledge, just understanding. And understanding in general education is, like as far as the internet is concerned, it's free. So realize that the difference between you and somebody who's far more successful than you is generally not that big of a difference in order for you to get real exposure.
Jay, thank you so much for your time. Much success with TNP Studios. If we at Black Entrepreneur Experience can do anything to move your business forward, don't hesitate to let us know. That's a wrap for us. We want to thank Jay, CEO of TNP Studios, for joining us for Black Entrepreneur Experience.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.